Hello, my name is Josh from Cyclonesoz, and I've got a rather interesting update again on the SSW, the sudden stratospheric warming event that's captivated Australia's weather scene over the past couple of months. So we've been talking about this SSW event, which is where the temperatures high above in the atmosphere above Antarctica rise dramatically over a very short period of time, one of which has just happened very recently at the end of September, and its impact that it's going to have across the climate of Australia, especially in the next couple of weeks and especially over the southeast of the nation. If you're wondering why the forecast is wrong and has been wrong for the last couple of weeks over areas of southeastern Australia, then this is the video update for you. I'm going to be explaining what you can expect from going onwards from this point and why the weather has been so different from what the long-range forecast was suggesting. So a sudden stratospheric warming event, it sounds like a scary term, but it really isn't. It's quite simple to understand. So it's where the atmosphere in the stratosphere high above Antarctica, 30 kilometers up actually, warms dramatically, and that's exactly what we've had. It happened very suddenly, hence the name, and it happened around the 23rd of September of this year, so just about 2 weeks ago now. It's where temperatures went from their usual minus 55, minus 60 degrees Celsius to plus 5 degrees at times, so a massive 50 plus degree jump in the atmosphere well above Antarctica that goes from bitterly cold temperatures that you could not sustain or not stand if you're outside to temperatures that you could manage in shorts and a jumper. So it really warmed up really quickly, and it's had a massive ramifications in the Australian weather scene, especially through, as you would all know, southeastern Australia, which has been very dry in what's promised to be a very wet spring. Now, this is a look of the jet stream, and it's forecast over the next couple of days across Australia and just the Southern Ocean in general. Well, this is centered over the Southern Ocean, and you can see the jet stream still remaining strong over Antarctica, but normally we see much stronger jet winds over the top of Australia coming out of the east and across towards the west. Normally these winds are up around the 200 kilometre an hour mark. On this map here, they look to be around 50 or 60 kilometres an hour, so they're substantially weaker than what they should be. This is a look at the temperatures from a page called Earth Not Null School, and this is back on the 23rd of September here, over the top of Antarctica, and you can see with the cursor here where I'm pointing at, these temperatures are substantially warmer than what they should be. They're 3 or 4 degrees above zero, in some places 5 degrees above zero, when they're supposed to be at this kind of altitude in the atmosphere around minus 50 degrees Celsius here, so 50 degrees below zero, and in some spots here, which you can see over towards the southern parts of South America, they're about minus 70 degrees or 70 degrees below zero. Very, very cold indeed, and it just shows you that there was effectively a massive hole in the atmosphere that was allowing this warm air to rise well above Antarctica. Keep in mind, still in the middle of winter over the top of Antarctica. It really was unbelievable stuff. I couldn't believe it when it was happening, and when everybody finally started to see what was going on and what was opening up over the top of Antarctica, we really just could not believe it. They're exceedingly rare. We've only had two happen before this in the 21st century, one in 2002 and one in 2019. Now, the 2019 one is very interesting because it was very recent. We do have a lot of data on it. 2019, that sudden stratospheric warming event, if we think back to rainfall deciles at the end of 2019, so for a 6-month period towards the end of 2019, this is in December 2019, have a look at this picture here. It is red. It is very, very red. The picture for Queensland, New South Wales, Victoria, South Australia, the Northern Territory, WA, even parts of the Capital Territory and Tasmania, extremely red, and that all indicates very much below average to lowest on record rainfall. Interestingly enough, the west coast of Tasmania did cop that wetter rainfall, and for reasons that I'll get to in the next couple of minutes, but this, as we all know, led to the Black Summer bushfires at the end of 2019, which was contributed to by the sudden stratospheric warming event at the end of 2019. When SSWs happen, they always happen in August or September in the southern hemisphere, and that's why they have a major impact on the spring weather scene, because they happen in spring. Now, if we think back to what we're looking at now in terms of rainfall deciles over the past 2 months across southeastern Australia especially, we're not looking at exactly the same deficiencies in rainfall. We are still looking at drier than average conditions across parts of Victoria and New South Wales, and also for South Australia, but interestingly enough, we've still got that wet spot on the western edge of Tasmania, and this has been because an SSW event really favours positive southern annular modes. Now, the southern annular mode is a cyclical basis based, or it's predicted based off the pressure differences between Darwin and Tahiti over in the South Pacific Ocean, and the southern annular mode basically estimates whether we're going to be seeing rainy periods across southern Australia or dry periods across southern Australia in our winter months. When we're seeing a positive SAM, we see these winds retract closer towards Tasmania. Those prevailing westerlies, they sink further south, and we're in a negative SAM. These prevailing westerlies track further north. Now, positive southern annular modes is what's favoured by a sudden stratospheric warming event, and that means that we see this rainfall band, the roaring 40s, basically get dragged a lot further south than usual, and they become effectively roaring 50s, which means the west coast of Tasmania still gets that rainfall from the roaring 40s. They still get that westerly flow because they are just that far south. They still get the northern edges of these cold fronts here, but the southeast corner of Australia completely misses out, and that's why they haven't seen much rainfall over the last couple of months, especially in the last month or so, in what has been promised to be quite a wet spring. So that is why your rainfall hasn't actually shown up for Victoria or South Australia especially yet. It's because, as we've been seeing lately, and you can actually see it on the monitoring graph here, the southern annular mode has either been just positive or now it's swung violently towards the positive side of things. In fact, the index is now at plus 1.51, which is the strongest index that we've seen since late August of this year. So we're very much in a very strong positive southern annular mode, and that means that the dry weather is forecast to continue. In fact, think back to the middle of September, we did have some strong winter storms and I believe some pretty good snowfall as well across parts of southeastern Australia. That was the last time the southern annular mode has been in that negative phase, and in fact it's the last time that southern annular mode has been properly negative, like really decently negative, since, by the looks of things, as early as February or even January of this year. So really have had a positive southern annular mode year, and that's why rainfall has been so far away from Victoria and South Australia and away from those places that really do need it. Now, the key difference between 2019 and 2025 is we actually have some influences that are going to be driving more rainfall into southeastern Australia. In 2019, another major climate driver, the Indian Ocean dipole, was strongly towards the positive side of things. This time we can see that the negative Indian Ocean dipole has swung completely the other way. So whilst in 2019 we had a massive positive Indian Ocean dipole effect, which really minimises rainfall through central and southeastern Australia, it's the complete opposite this year. So rainfall is on its way, and the Indian Ocean dipole really does begin to kick up its influence in early November when the monsoon begins to build across northwestern Australia. Well, that monsoon trough really does begin to sink further down into the Indian Ocean, and that means those massive northwest cloud bands can carry that moisture from the Indian Ocean into southeastern Australia. That's going to happen, trust me. So the rainfall is going to return, and with this Indian Ocean dipole getting stronger and stronger towards the negative side of things, there is heaps of rainfall still on the cards. To further add to that, the Nino 3.4 index is also looking to be quite strong towards the cool neutral side of things, so it's not quite in La Nina yet. Last time we saw a La Nina was towards the start of this year. We're not quite in the full La Nina thresholds yet. We need to have sustained negative or cool neutral temperatures for a 2-month period, and we're not going to get that, so a La Nina is very unlikely to develop, but we're in that cool neutral, which means that for a brief period of time La Nina effects will still be felt across eastern Australia especially. So that's another high rainfall driver that we're seeing, and again completely the opposite of 2019 where we had almost El Nino type conditions developing, which is a dry climate driver for eastern Australia. So there's two major climate drivers now that are supporting rainfall or favouring rainfall for southeastern Australia. And if we have a look at the long range forecast, not so much for October because this SSW event is still going to be quite strong, and as mentioned as well, we don't see the Indian Ocean dipole kick up its rainfall for southeastern Australia for at least another couple of weeks until that monsoon does begin to build. So the Indian Ocean dipole is not going to be a factor at play here until probably early November, but you can see rainfall does begin to build on the Bureau of Meteorology's forecast, especially through early November into the southeast corner of the nation. So the rainfall is on its way, it's just been delayed quite significantly, and our 3-month outlooks as well from October to December still favour above average rainfall through southeastern Australia, and more importantly through our dry season months in November to January as well, substantially above average rainfall is possible into the southeast corner of the nation, and in fact some locations into the lower southeast of South Australia have a really good chance of receiving decile 7 or greater rainfall accumulations, which is very good to see indeed. I'm very, very excited to be seeing that in the forecast because these are some places that have had some extremely dry conditions in the last couple of years, so very, very good news for those locations, that's for sure. So the rainfall is most certainly on its way. It's very good to see that this is on the forecast here, but I don't want anybody to be panicking or feeling anything too crazy right now. So one of our major climate drivers as well that promotes rainfall in the tropics is the Madden-Julian Oscillation, or the MJO, and it's basically a cyclical rainfall driver that rotates anti-clockwise on a 40-day basis around the Earth's equator, and when it does get itself into sections 3, 4 or 5, it enhances rainfall from western to eastern Australia. So it's going to get itself into section 3 probably in early November, which means this rainfall should kick off into the early parts of November, and you can actually see some much wetter conditions expected in the later parts of October October through parts of central Western Australia and then into South Australia as well. And that should kick off a run of above average rainfall through parts of central Australia, which will then carry over in towards southeastern Australia into very early November. Definitely a major cycle now on the cards around that time frame. Also, for southeast Queensland, the thunderstorm outlook has been very, very boring in the last couple of weeks, and that's expected to continue remaining the same as well. Right out to the 20th of October or so, you can see on the medium range forecasting here from the ECMWF, the European Centre for Medium Range Weather Forecasting, there's not too much in the way of thunderstorms beyond about or out till about the 15th of October before rainfall and thunderstorms do begin to pipe up a little bit more across parts of southeast Queensland. But southeast Queensland is another location that gets very significantly impacted in a very similar fashion to how Victoria and South Australia get impacted by SSW events. And that's something that I didn't know. I've only picked that up in the last couple of weeks from looking at the models and observing what's going on based off the current SSW events. That's interesting. And this is definitely going to be an event that we learn a lot from, not just myself, but everybody in the meteorology community and also in the scientific community. The SSW event of 2025 sure to find its way into textbooks and to be studied because it is a significant weather event. But is this all just spring weather? Well, it does sound like changeover conditions. It's dry, it's wet, there's thunderstorms, there's no thunderstorms. It's Australia. We see this sort of stuff all the time. Well, no, because the forecast and all of the setup that we have right now, including those much below average sea temperatures in the Nino 3.4 region here, which you can see on screen, I'm circling right now, which signals a developing La Nina or La Nina conditions even. Above average sea temperatures through northern Australia, that negative Indian Ocean dipole, that should all be meaning that we're running away with another heavy rainfall spring, very similar to what we saw last spring with extreme thunderstorm activity, extreme rainfall activity. So the fact that it's not actually happening is definitely indicative of something unusual going on, and that is that SSW event. So for everybody that's wondering, well, this is just normal spring weather that happens every other year, or it's just kind of that cyclical basis that we see around Australia, the fact that the forecast is so wildly wrong compared to where it was a couple of months ago is quite concerning indeed, and it is definitely a sign that we do have something going on high above in the atmosphere. The good news is that this SSW event is now beginning to weaken off, and you can see that on the 30-kilometer altitude temperatures up here from the Eastern Weather forecast. The temperatures are now beginning to return to what I'd consider closer to normal thresholds. They're still a lot further above where they should be right now. I mean, minus 18, minus 20 degrees Celsius here over the top of Antarctica. They should be closer to that minus 40 to minus 50 degree mark, so they're still substantially warmer than they should be, but it is a sign that things are about to return to normal, and by early November we should be seeing these temperatures return pretty much back to baseline, and the conditions should all settle down. But definitely 2 months of spring, September and October, the weather scene has been completely written off, that's for sure, and our long-range forecasts back in July and August were thrown out of the window for this wet spring, which is just not going to materialise for southeastern Australia. At best, they'll have an average spring rainfall-wise, and that will take a lot of thunderstorms and a lot of rainfall to really catch up to those average conditions. So fingers crossed, because there's a lot of locations that really do need the rainfall, and it is coming early November. The rainfall most certainly will arrive, but it is going to be a lot later than what we did initially expect. Anyways, I do hope you've enjoyed this update or found it informative, and if you have, then please do consider leaving a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. These updates, there's a lot of thought, a lot of research that goes into them, so all of the support is massively appreciated. Of course, a special shout out to the channel sponsors. Their names are on screen right now. I could not run the show without them, so again, their support is massively appreciated as usual. And if you've got any feedback or questions, leave them in the comment section down below. I'd be more than happy to help you out down there as well. Check out the Facebook page too. But that is going to be all from me today. We'll catch you on the next storm. Goodbye.